All right. So, yeah, here you go, Rhubarb. You had posted this one, which was a fun problem here. So I know you've got the whole write-up here, but if you want to kind of summarize in your own words,
First
since
of
you're
all,
here.
who has not seen this topic?
I
Anybody?
haven't.
You haven't? Okay.
No.
So Jeff, why don't you go through it for us and tell us what
Sure.
you found?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a fresh call for a I think a year and a half old Whirlpool dryer. Customer said what was it? The user interface would let you set a cycle, it would respond, you'd press start, it would beep, and then nothing happened. And luckily they told me before I got into troubleshooting that they had a previous issue with the bad circuit breaker, and one of their friends took it apart to try to troubleshoot it before they found, excuse me, that it was a breaker issue. And I, I mean, I go into some detail in the post, but basically futzing around, eventually I got it to run momentarily after power up, and only then after it would time out after about 10 seconds, and then just waiting 2 or 3 minutes before it displayed an error code for an open or shorted inlet thermistor. So open it up. Well, I measure at the control board. Sure enough, the inlet thermistor is open. There's no continuity, no, OL resistance. So I open up the unit and I find that the connector, so this has an inlet thermistor built into the cycling thermostat, I would call it, or the bimetal on the can, and the RAST connector was clipped onto the retainer.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually clipped
Oh,
into the connector.
I think
Cool,
I saw
dude.
that. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. But what really threw me though was, I mean, that's
That's
an
awesome.
oddball one. You're gonna get, if a customer can make a mistake, do it yourselfing, they will. But what really threw me was there's an error code for open or shorted thermistor, and if you don't try to start the unit within the first 10 seconds of plugging it in, it'll just happily refuse to start and never display that error code.
Mm.
So it seems like a waste of time. The manufacturer
Yeah.
programs an error code into it, and then they're not going to display it to help you. I was going to quote them for a control board.
Wow. Now,
Uh,
could
uh,
you get retrieve the error code in a service mode? Was there a service mode on this one? You could re
On,
no.
on
Okay.
arrival, there were no errors stored.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was a bizarre way for this failure to manifest. That yeah, it doesn't. What's the these? Well, the funny thing is these thermistor error codes. They're so often so useless because that's rarely how thermistors fail is by going open or closed. So then the one time when it would be useful for it to actually show up, it doesn't.
Right, exactly.
right. They didn't put it into the programming. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, I was just experimenting and I found, yeah, if you come to if the unit's plugged in, you try to start a cycle, it beeps, you lets you select a cycle, hold start, double beeps like it's going to run, no relay click, no nothing. But if you unplug the unit, plug it back in, and while it's still waking up, as soon as you can enter a cycle, start it, then it would start and run and then just shut down and not display an error code. And it was while I was doing research, 2, 3, 4 minutes later, that all of a sudden it starts complaining and blinking. I think it was F3E1. I forget. It's in the post, but so it's in there, but it's like it has to be just the right scenario for it to display it. Just seems like a wasted opportunity to me.
So is that a
Well, yeah.
combination thermostat and thermistor in one?
Hmm. Yeah, it is.
It's the same thermostat that they actually use for the dryer that just has an attachment on it for the thermistor because you can actually pop that off if you need to actually you can pop that off. If you go back to the
Oh,
picture,
right.
you can actually take the thermistor off of that right there, and it's actually just the same thermostat. And so if you ever and actually you can carry
Oh,
this. Yep.
clipped
So
around
that
there.
Yep. So that just pops off of there, and it's actually trimmed. The metal part at the bottom here is trimmed so the thermistor can sit on it. But the thermostat is actually the same temperature cycling thermostat.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Good info.
Yeah. Yeah, and they even show, I just got it here on the schematic because I was curious about that too. They show here that they're kind of bundled together as one component. You've got the thermistor here and the high limit, and they
And they
have their
say in
box
there,
around it. Yeah.
combined part,
Yeah.
Yep.
piece combini.
So yeah, that was a good
This
one.
Yeah, this makes me think, like it's like a tech lesson, but it's really kind of a business lesson because anytime you have a customer that works on the machine, anything is fair game and you have to, do you want to take on, a job if a customer worked on it
That's
and
been customerized.
Yeah. No, very
customized.
good
So
point,
I wanted
Julian.
to ask you guys, do you guys have any rules of thumb? I know you guys got a lot more experience in this business than me. Do you guys have any SOPs that like when they say they worked on it? Because I know I've run into, not this particular one, but I've had other situations where kind of got screwed over a little bit because the customer worked on it and they didn't tell you something, then you find out after and you have to make another trip or whatever the situation is. So I've always thought in my head like there's got to be something I could add to my process, but I just don't know what it is. And maybe there isn't really anything you can do other than to just not take a job that a customer has worked on. So I want to ask you guys if you had any things that you've learned or anything like that on this issue.
I think it's always case by case. I
Yep,
mean,
depends.
yeah,
Yeah.
in my area, it's blue collar enough, that a lot of people will dip their toe in, and to their credit, in most cases, they'll take the top panel off C and say, "Oh no, I'm not going any farther." But I haven't found a better way. I've come to some jobs, they never tell you that they've taken it apart. You get there and it's an absolute basket case. I
Yeah.
mean, they have the
Taken
entire
apart wrong.
thing. Oh yeah, yeah. I had a Whirlpool Alpha front load that somebody went in through the back panel. It was in pieces when I got there, and I haven't found a better way to catch that ahead of time. But I will walk away, say, sorry, this is too far gone. You're going to pay me more to reassemble it than it's worth.
Right. For me, it depends on just like Jeff said, depends on the scenario, depends on the situation. If I've already driven out there, I want to get my service call and I want to make a repair and I want to make money. And I don't want to waste my time and be like, oh crap, they've taken off 5 screws. So now I'm going to be like, oh no, I'm not going to touch it. So it kind of depends on the scenario. I ran into a scenario one time where a dryer was absolutely demolished, torn apart. Customer had page after page of Marcon receipts sitting there. He was an engineer, and I told him, I said, I cannot. You reassemble this, and I'll be back tomorrow. Surely enough, he reassembled it, and I came back the next day. It was perfect. And I found out it actually just had a bad thermistor that somehow he missed. I don't know. So it kind of depends scenario by scenario on that one, Julian. But I was going to say real quick on Jeff finding that it's it's not only what I take away from that was he listened and he changed scenarios and he was listening for relays clicking and he was trying different things. He didn't just go in there and plug it in and turn on, look, you got a bad board or whatever. He took the time and he used his ears to listen and observe. I think technicians sometimes forget that of hearing the sounds and relays clicking and trying to understand what they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Good
Yeah.
point too. That was a great scenario, Jeff. Thanks for posting that at Appliantology. Appreciate it.